This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello and welcome to the Hub. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Tremendous pressure on the Chinese economy as the country scrambles to emerge from pandemic control measures, including partial lockdowns in many Chinese cities. The Chinese government apparently recognizes the current difficulties. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang chaired a video conference on May the 25th and issued a whole range of measures to salvage the Chinese economy and, more importantly, perhaps jobs. Now, to interpret the latest economic trends and the Chinese government's actions, I'm joined today in Beijing by Liu Baocheng, Director of the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics, Mr. Gilles Djon, Director of Business Operations at the African Chamber of Commerce based in Shanghai. But first, Professor Liu, always great to have you with us and pick your mind. We've heard from the Chinese premier loud and clear. The Chinese economy is facing tremendous difficulty. Premier Li said, and I quote, indicators such as employment, industrial production, electricity consumption, and freight have fallen significantly. The difficulties are greater in some aspects, and to a certain extent, even greater than the severe impact of the pandemic in 2020. Give us the sense of where you think the Chinese economy is right now.
Well, first of all, we are facing three tiers of pressures on Chinese economic growth. Number one is that globally, the world is no longer flat. The regional conflict is accelerating, and that's really a great interruption to a global supply chain in which China plays a very important role, and hence China is negatively impacted in terms of the global commodity prices and also the logistic difficulties to major markets. And second, it is the Chinese transformation of its industrial structure, because we are going for high quality growth, and that means that we have to be committed to environmental quality and also trying to avoid some of the labor intensity and environmentally unfriendly businesses. So that is also deterrence to the current economic growth. And of course, immediately, it is really the COVID-0 policy, which places the people at the center and their health and their life, and which is understandable, but in the same time, it's going to hurt the economy. And therefore, as you mentioned, the lockdown of number of cities and also the blockade against the smooth logistic and transformation, that hurts the flow of all economic factors, from people to goods and services, etc. You see in Beijing, the restaurants are not really open for quite some time. And now we do see a moderate relaxation at the moment. Hopefully, we can live through this most difficult time and bring our life and work onto the right track.
I mean, we live in China and we can feel it, right? Historic unemployment rates among the urban Chinese youth, at least in recent memory, a very sluggish consumption for residents, and also investor confidence that has been impacted, to put it mildly. What would you identify as the biggest difficulty facing the Chinese economy now?
For the April, the unemployment rate hit on 6.1%, which is something that can really ring the alarm for key decision makers. And more outstandingly is the youngsters, people from 18 years old to 24 years old. And they are really most of them are graduates from the universities. And this year, we're going to have more than 10 million graduates from the colleges. As a professor for the last 40 years, I really feel very much concerned about it. And when I talk to our students who are ready to graduate, and they feel frustrated because one is that the job hunting services are not very enthusiastic, and number two is that it is very difficult to move to other cities to receive interviews and see the work conditions on spot, and therefore stability instead of doing business ventures or entrepreneurship. That's their choice. So stability motivate them to seek jobs with the government service positions, and also in the other type of research organizations, instead of really doing the business and join private companies. And plus the private companies are also facing the mounting pressure because the three tiers of pressures that they are facing.
Okay, so Mr. Djon, let me turn to you. You live in Shanghai, right?
Yes, I do.
So give us a sense of what life and what businesses have been in the past 4 months. We all know, and we've all heard about the partial lockdown in Shanghai that is apparently no fun for businesses.
Yeah, it was very difficult. I think originally we all expected it to last a few weeks. Then the situation dragged for like a couple of months. For us having businesses in Shanghai, it was very difficult to handle the situation. So right now that things are getting back to normal, you can sense a feel of relief among foreigners living here. You can sense that hope is coming back. So we hope that the month of June is going to be a very positive month, because what has made Shanghai, in my opinion, the biggest city in the world, it is the fact that the opportunities and the willingness of the people, the entrepreneurship of the people coming from different parts of the world, just to have an opportunity to fight and improve their lifestyle. So we are looking forward to starting again, and hopefully the month of June is going to be that month.
Right. Mr. Djon, you talk about the fact that things are looking up, or at least that's the hope. Can you talk to us a bit about that? I mean, with relaxation policies in place, we heard from the government officials pledging greater relaxation when it comes to COVID control and prevention measures. What do you hope to happen in the month of June and in the months going forward?
Shanghai is not like a plug-and-play city. It takes time to bring back people, to bring back actually the routine, the expertise, the feeling like in the confidence. You know, are we going to use subway again? Because we know it's easy to catch COVID in the subway. Are we going to use a cab, a taxi, or share even the mobile, the city motorcycle? And so all of this is creating a sense of, it's like we are not there yet, right? We are starting to going back to normal, but it's going to take a few weeks, maybe 1 or 2 months for us to feel safe again. In the meantime, we are just hoping that the situation will go back to normal, basically, not only in Shanghai, also in Beijing, because for me, for example, I am a business person. I travel, I visit factories, I visit business partners all over China, and not being able to go to Taiyang, to be able to go to Yantai, to go to Beijing is a big challenge for me, right? Also, some foreign companies, for example, because I'm going to talk from a foreigner standpoint. Foreign companies, most of our business are export business. It means even though our family and us, we live in Shanghai, most of our businesses are in Zhejiang, Guangdong, or these places where we need to go, visit factories, manage export procedure. That cannot be done within your apartment, right? In China, you know, in China, negotiation and contract agreement are face-to-face. We need to share a glass of baijiu, smoke together, laugh together. This is what makes China attractive. We don't do Western style business where we can sit behind the computer, you send emails. You need to shake hands. You need to talk. You need to talk about our lives, our families, our kids. This is the difference.
Facing the unknown is always difficult. In a world in turmoil, it's easy to lose orientation. But when the storms come, we have to see the possibilities, reinvent, find new opportunities, discover a path forward. CGTN, see the difference.
Yeah, Professor Liu, our friend in Beijing, knows a thing or two about Baiju, among other things. Professor Liu, your reaction to what Gilles has just said, the sentiment that says we're not there yet, but things are somehow looking up.
Yes, and we feel that this is the situation all around China, because even in Beijing, it used to be required, we have to do daily acid test, and right now there's a relaxation. And when people are really convinced that they're going to be safe, and also when the political administrators will see that their mission is they're more or less achieved, and therefore definitely they're going to relax the restrictions over the movement of people, and more of the shops will be open. And it needs really a coordinated efforts, because as Jill mentioned, that even those big cities who are more informed about the direction, and if the third-tier cities or local towns do not really follow immediately in synchronization with such a sort of understanding and call for urgency of economic recovery from the central government, and that's also making things difficult. The other is the international travels, because as Jill mentioned, that for international business, number one is that you can see the flight to and from all major cities in China are strictly controlled and also substantially reduced. If you compare Shanghai with New Delhi, with Singapore, with Hong Kong, we do see such a sort of chilly situation. And then, for the shipping services, for all the containers moving in and out of the major ports, and that's also something that we have to face. And the other is also the cost of such a movement of goods and services, because now from air tickets to the shipping cost of all containers, they are really skyrocketing. So that's something that from addressing the COVID, and then to address the reduction of the cost of doing business. And that's also another task that's lying ahead.
Hopefully the local government officials will heed those suggestions. Now, Professor Liu, we've heard from Premier Li, and actually the Chinese government has announced a large-scale policy package to support the economy with 33 measures in 6 areas. How do you see the latest round of rescue package salvaging the Chinese economy?
It's definitely a positive jab into people's confidence. And also, actually, we do see that the central government is trying to bring a better equilibrium into the cost and benefit of the major economy versus the environment versus the health control, etc. And also that the businesses will see that there are still a number of toolkits available to shore up the economy. Because if you compare with the rest of the world, China still has a very high interest rate, which can be managed to support the businesses by the reduction of interest rate, because right now we still are confident enough that with minor changes in our capital reserve ratio over the commercial banks, and also over targeted relief funds and some subsidies into those crippled areas, and that will suffice instead of flooding the market with liquidity. And the other is that the government is there to make sure that the tax can be delayed, and also the rent can be reduced, particularly when they rent from the state-owned firms, buildings and other facilities, etc. More of the job opportunities are being created. Hopefully not really in those government service area, but to help the young kids to get jobs within private firms, and also to support them with entrepreneurship, or to have more advanced study opportunities, etc. So these are really moving forward, and people do have the confidence, and people hope that we are on a steady course, following Premier Li's concern and direction, instead of facing another opposite current that's there to disturb such sort of trajectory.
Gilles, how do you see Premier Li's announcement, the Chinese government's latest economic rescue plans, in perhaps helping the businesses of your chamber?
Actually, we perceive it as a great sign. We really need this kind of support from Premier Li. In my opinion, this is going to reassure a lot of foreigners and foreign companies living in Shanghai. The situation, the advantage that it procured to us is the opportunity to know that we have the support of the government. In my opinion, like Mr. Luo said before, traveling is the most challenging aspect of things. But if we can compensate the lack of travel with this kind of government measure to support businesses in Shanghai, I think that can actually help most of entrepreneurs. So the measure, for example, that is going to support the renting part, like I said before, Shanghai is probably one of the most expensive cities in mainland China. That measure is going to help a lot of businesses. Also, hiring people, right? Because if you want to get back to work, you have a lot of work missing, and to catch up, being able to hire new staff, and knowing we have the support of the government as well. These are very important measures that we think is going to help us go back to that feeling that we had before, that we have hope in the future.
Right. Professor Liu, I want to ask you about China's use of foreign capital. According to the Ministry of Commerce, China actually used its use of foreign capital recorded a significant jump of 26% year on year from January to April this year, 2022, reaching $74 billion US. And this all happened despite COVID and lockdown and partial lockdown measures. How do you interpret this figure?
The fundamental of Chinese economic strength is not really removed, despite of some of the difficulties we are facing. And we have the most sophisticated industrial cluster that supports the global economy and fit into the global supply chain. And you can also see that the investment into the high-tech industry is really climbing, actually by more than 10%. And people do have the hope and confidence that we're going to live through. And the other is that do not forget that China has achieved a remarkable success dealing the COVID so far, because we have far less casualties, and also that we managed the return of productivity, particularly in the manufacturing sector, very successfully, actually. And now, people are talking about shifting their industrial capacity more to Vietnam, Cambodia, etc. And they already, over the last 3 years, actually, there has been very loud conversations about that. And right now, through the interview with a number of international business leaders, they do feel that it is not really comparable with the Chinese job skills, with the Chinese government integrated support. And now, after Shanghai, the emergencies is there to dissolve. And I should say that the strength and resilience will return.
Right. Gilles, how would you evaluate and assess China's environment for foreign businesses overall?
It was business friendly, to be honest. But, since 2020, we have been in a situation a little bit weird because we have the trade war with the US, of course. For us exporting products, it becomes challenging. Then you have the pandemic. The price of logistics increased threefold sometimes. The container went from $1,500 to $306,100. So basically, the business environment has become very, very challenging exporting from China, right? Like Professor Liu was saying, even those who explore the idea of setting their shop in Vietnam or Cambodia, of course, it's going to take a longer time to find the skilled workers to perform the same work at the same speed. When you have a market waiting for your product within a short period of time, it's not possible basically to change China know-how and replace it with maybe Vietnam or Cambodia know-how. It's going to cost you to hire a person in Vietnam with the same level of skills that you could hire an engineer in Jiangsu, for example. And it's going to be very challenging because we have lost a lot of expats. The expertise of these foreigners is going to be missing. Now, of course, we are going back to the situation like 10 years ago, where Shanghai were lacking what is called the middle management level skill. We were having a lot of students coming out of university. To hire them is okay. But now when you need decision makers like management level people with expertise and experience, is becoming challenging now. It's going to take some time and some more policies from the Shanghai municipality to attract, to feel confidence in the future and hope that things are going to get better. And we trust the Shanghai government to do what is necessary.
Right. You talk about the fact that US-China strategic competition is becoming another important factor, external shock, if you will, to China's business environment, and also, foreign companies, including African companies doing business in China. We talk about supply chain integrity, so on and so forth. So, Professor Liu, let me ask you a question about US-China strategic competition that is really on the mind of many business people, like Gilles, I suppose. We've heard from Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, in announcing Biden's China policy, actually. Many experts that have talked to said America is envisioning a globalization that is de-Sinicized. Is that even possible? But will Washington try it anyway?
Well, the leaders, both from politics and business, they want substance. They do not really want rhetorics. And second, over the last 3 years, despite of the hanging tariff over $350 billion over the Chinese exports to the United States, our trade tie has not been severed. Well, actually, it's even strengthened because the U.S. consumers do need Chinese goods. The U.S. businesses do need the distributional network based on the Chinese goods and services. And trying to rivet on China as the hostile competitor, and this is something that's really hurt not only the Chinese business, but also the U.S. consumers at large. The U.S. is not there to commit with the entire Indo-Pacific, and they just bring up some sort of a blueprint. What are those substances that can be expected? So this is something that we do really want to welcome. Competition, but more of the positive and fair competition instead of getting the business side politicized.
Well, Gilles, how do you see Washington's containment strategy towards China affecting and impacting your businesses?
Well, you can start feeling the impact in Africa, of course. You have different situations. For example, you have Congo DRC, where they are pushing a search of like a campaign to highlight the treatment of Chinese mining companies, right, in Africa. We have received a lot of complaints from our Chinese members, factories working in Africa, about how the media is portraying what they're trying to do or what they're doing. So you can see that the foreign media has ramped up, if you want, the pressure around Chinese investment in Africa. Now you have a lot of discussion about the debt trap. We know that a lot of this debt trap is just a campaign. It is just, like I said, an idea to show how China is a threat to Africa. But most African governments don't feel that way, because we understand it's part of the game, the global game. This is affecting the relation between African countries and Western countries, because they are forced to pick a side in a war that they don't have no interest in. What we want as African business people and African government in Africa is just to have an opportunity to negotiate and partner with both sides. What China can bring, America cannot bring it. What America can bring, China cannot bring it. For example, we made a report at the chamber last time. The difference between Chinese investment and American investment is simple. One side can flood you with dollars because they can print it. The other side can flood you with know-how and expertise. For us, African, we need both. We can take investment from America in terms of dollars and finance our project to Chinese companies because they have a better expertise when it comes to building infrastructure. So we cannot say, oh, we want to sever our ties with China and go to America. So the situation is very tense when it comes to the African situation. We just hope that we had a better policy from both sides that is going to go easier than just sleepwalking all of us into a potential conflict.
Hopefully there will be some long overdue synergy between Washington and Beijing when it comes to economic policy coordination, not only amongst these two countries, but around the world. I want to thank both of you, Dr. Liu Baocheng from University of International Business Economics, and also Jilles Djon from African Chamber of Commerce. Thank you both so very much. That's all the time we have for this edition of The Hub. Thank you for tuning in. Write us an email or leave us a comment on social media. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Thank you for watching.